That's a tap. We're back. DJ with CT. My brother, how you doing?
Good, my man. What's up? Good to be back. Not much in terms of UFC and the MMA scene, but since our last episode. But hey, we thought it's high time. Let's come say hi to a group of fans, and then obviously talk some big news. Not inside the octagon, but outside the octagon. Man, you got the man on the screen right there, the return of the Mac, like he likes to say, Conor McGregor. Big, huge week for him in terms of his movie releasing a different avenue in terms of career paths for him. He's trying to uh, test out the waters in terms of acting. He calls himself a showman. Obviously, he calls his he says it's showbiz, which I agree, man. Like this guy's entertainment. Whether it's fighting, press conferences, now he's actually into Hollywood, in making a movie, a huge remake, and we'll talk about that too. But man, before all of that, like, what do you think? What do you think of all the news that's come out this week?
It's been a breath of fresh air, I think, because I've been waiting for some answers in terms of like, okay, UFC 300. I'm still looking forward to that, but what's up with the man? What's up with Iron Mike Chandler? And it was good to get some interviews, some
Yeah,
quotes from the man. Today, Errol Hawani did speak
yeah,
to the Mystic Mac. What did
yeah.
you take away from that, man? And how are you feeling
Man,
about it?
like the one thing though, and I feel like this was all purely for the movie. Like he was a lot beefier a few months ago, if you recall. But now, looking at these recent press conferences, these interviews, these red carpet premieres, you see he's slimmed down a lot. He's lean. He's looking like the old Conor McGregor again, which makes me feel, he did that for the movie because he's playing a you know, big baddie, who's, one of the main villains in this Roadhouse movie. So he's obviously bulked up for that to play the part, I feel. And now he's, getting back into shape. I don't for a second think the fight's going to happen at 185. Um, it's funny because the start of the week, sort of when the premieres kicked off, we saw him do a lot of interviews with a few people, and at that stage, he was kind of airing his frustration, talking about how he still hasn't been able to get any clarity from the UFC. I believe that may have caused some wheels to turn, some things to put in motion. Hey, when we woke up today, we come to know the news that McGregor's returning in summer. And he said, no, he got the call. It's a go. Again, it's very cryptic because there's no date, and I don't believe there's a date set. Maybe it's been given a time frame. So I don't know. Like I feel like the more I look at it, I feel like it'll be in that sort of August, October range because we know that September one's going to be the Sphere, unless they do the McGregor one in the Sphere. Um, so yeah, look, interesting to see. Always exciting, man. Like whether you like the guy or not. As you know, I'm a huge fan. I know you're a huge fan too. Um, you know, he brings a lot of eyeballs, a lot of entertainment, but also, man, like again, time and time again, like the rise to that featherweight title, and then the way he continued himself and that double champ status. Everything was just one of a kind, and he's an extremely talented, skillful fighter. He's been absent a lot due to various things. Most recently being the injury. Um, but look, I'm excited. I'm excited he's back. I'm excited to see the fight. It seems like it is a Chandler fight, which I'm glad because I think it's a good fight to come back to. In terms of coming back from an injury, sort of needing to go back into a training camp. Interesting thing though, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. He said to Hawani that he prefers to start off with a three-rounder and then go into a five-rounder. Now, it's quite interesting because McGregor's always headlining. You'd rarely find a card, uh, other than those early day McGregor cards, where Conor McGregor has not been the headliner. Whether it's a pay per view, non pay per view, the biggest star in the sport, obviously, right? But one of the biggest stars in combat sports. What do you think of that? What do you think of that 3 round comment? First of all, like, what are your thoughts on it? And then do you agree that that's a good strategy?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise, man. But then when I thought about it for a minute, I thought, okay, it makes sense, but still surprised. I think, Connor is always headlined and, always fighting those, major
Yeah.
fights for 5 rounds. This could be a reach, let me know what you think, but maybe it could be something like his contract's coming towards an end. It could be a negotiating tactic. You
Yeah.
know, there was a lot of conversation in that interview about why hasn't the UFC come to him? Is he still waiting for
Yeah.
them to come with another offer? And he
Yeah.
said and this is the second time he mentioned this in another interview. He said Lorenzo would have
Yeah.
approached him 2 fights ago. So I think that was a little bit of a subliminal as to him saying, look, Dana's maybe, like you said to me, not, or the UFC isn't prioritizing him as much as they used to.
Yeah. Man, look, the you cannot, without knowing what's going on in the background. We're all making guesses and assumptions, but it's very hard to gauge from what he's saying. He does go on about how, like, he hasn't been approached about it, and not being offered a fight, not being given clarity. But then also in the same breath, he goes on about how he loves the UFC, and is one of the best companies he's worked for, and it's always, it's ride or die with the UFC. So it's hard to see. Even Elwani, he's known for, obviously we know his relationship with Dana White, and any sort of chance he gets, he's obviously likes to go deeper into areas where the situation may not be that favorable towards Dana White. And this is one such instance, right? He's saying, Connor's saying, I'm not happy, no one's approached me. But even when Helwani probed, I didn't Connor was like, no, I'm not phased, like, sure, let's see, maybe they don't know as well. Look, there's always going to be tactics in the background. Like, this is a bigger star. Now, unlike some of the other stars, Conor McGregor has a huge name. Like, he could go to any organization and not just have people tune in, but he could raise those organizations with his star power. We saw that he did that to the UFC, right? To this day, man, like, he's had a couple of losses and everything, but mark my words, when he comes back and he fights, that'll be one of the biggest pay-per-views in recent times, right? So, and you don't even have to stack a card with McGregor. You just have McGregor, and that's it, right? So, and the UFC understands that. So I think part of it is they do want to keep him, I feel, but they don't. They're not sure what the plans are. They would also. I would like to think UFC, being such a dynamic organization, wouldn't like to put all their eggs in one basket. So they probably want to try and build the company to a place, which they have to, for the most part of it, build the company to a point where uh, they don't have to constantly rely on what Dennis said this multiple times. No one's bigger than the company. Like, we know that McGregor is bigger than the company. Like, he's got a huge fan following, commands a lot of respect and attention. Whether they like to admit it or not, he is bigger than the company. He's the one who took the UFC to the heights that we are seeing today. And the truth is, while there's some fantastic stars in the organization right now, the superstardom that Conor McGregor is experiencing and sort of the tier that he's in, I don't think anyone's breached that yet. And I think the UFC understands that too. So there's two parts to this. I guess maybe adding more nuances to it and being able to utilize McGregor more in the UFC. I understand where whose commitments are. Also, the other part could be, and we saw that the delay in. I don't believe the delays in this fight happening has been from McGregor's end. Right. Although I do see why it couldn't have been UFC 300. See how much media that's going into this, promoting this movie. And I think when he does return, we want him focused. We want him, to as close as possible to that old Conor McGregor, who came in dialed in, with that killer instinct. So to do that, you want him with no distractions. And I think this would have been a distraction, because look at the timing. UFC 300 is like only a couple of weeks away. Having said that, yeah, I think the delay mainly, I feel like, is from the UFC's end. Could be a tactic. They do want to draw out his prime, such to say. So if he were to fight outside of that organization, the fans wouldn't be as enticed. As is, again, I could be far fetching here. Could be clutching at straws. It's just my take on it. Could be that one of the reasons for them to grind that out, delay it out a bit. And look, man, like the UFC's done that. Not just UFC. Usually, promoters tend to do that to maximize the benefit for them. Um, but we'll just have to wait and see. Having said that, same thing from the UFC's and Dana White's openly said as recently as the most recent pay per view that McGregor is one of the best people to do business with. We have no issues doing business with him. So we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Could be power play. It could be just timelines, planning. I don't know. Maybe they want to see let McGregor come back. Let him have one fight. Let's see how he feels. Because the pattern has been so far, again, things outside of his control, but he comes back, fights, and goes away for a while, then comes back. There's been significant intervals in between, and maybe the UFC feels like, oh, well, maybe that's not. We want to see how he feels. Like, or there's injury, right? The UFC's had a massive injury, man, where his leg, snapped enough. No jokes, right? They want to see how he performs or how he holds up after that. If that's an injury that's going to cause more problems, maybe the UFC feels there's no real point in signing him again. I don't know. I think any organization, it will be foolish to not have someone with the star power, caliber, and name value of Conor McGregor. So we'll see. I mean, we'll get answers. I feel like there'll be more clarity once this fight happens. We still don't know when the fight is. That's the other point. But once this fight happens, we'll know when what's next, right? Because after that, it's going to be the last fight. So they have to make that play. They have to start negotiating. But I'm also pretty certain if the UFC doesn't make an offer, every single organization will be circling around McGregor with some really, really lucrative offers because of what that could do to their organization. McGregor's spoken extensively about wanting to go into the boxing part, so maybe that's a deterring factor for the UFC. Because they clearly said, "Oh, we don't want to keep doing this. Like, go boxing, crossover. We don't do that, etc." So, yeah, man, we'll have to wait and see. But as far as we know, again, not 100%. Chandler came out and said, "Oh, is it? Like, I don't know. No one's told me." UFC haven't made it formal. McGregor said, "Okay, we've got the call. It's a go." But what does that mean? So it's still not 100%. We can't confidently say, can't pull our banners out and run around partying yet. We just got to wait for that formal confirmation. But to be able to come out publicly and say that, and to see the change in demeanor, I do feel the UFC has made contact. And I feel, yeah, look, the fight will probably happen this year. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit on a lot of points. I agree. Obviously, he's past his prime, and it makes sense. There's only a couple fights on his deal that the UFC is looking beyond. Conor McGregor, and it's normal. In all sports when one particular player in a team sport and the organization has to consider giving them a contract extension and they're aging and
Yeah.
all of those normal factors play a part in sport. But yeah, he continuously references Nate Diaz and wanting that trilogy. So I could really see the stars align and him fighting his final fight with the
Yeah.
UFC as that one if he does move on, DJ.
Yeah. Look, it's a fan favorite fight. It's a fans fight, right? Like two, absolute OGs of the game. You can argue, definitely, Diaz especially is sort of past his prime somewhat. With McGregor, because he takes such good care of himself, and like you never know. But it's not one of those fights where, like, from a competition point of view, it's like the current top fighter fighting, two current top fighters fighting. Having said that, like, it's a fan friendly fight. Like, it's the build up, the whole scenario, the two fights, at all it was action packed. So for him to say that, and I get where he's coming from. I'm down to watch that fight. So yeah, look, again, Diaz is no longer part of the UFC as well. Although Dana's again said, Diaz is welcome to walk in anytime. This is his house. So I think the same probably applies to McGregor too. So we'll see. We'll wait where this all goes and where this plays out. Because if McGregor gets a win against Chandler, right, what that does is puts him back in title picture. All he needs is one win and he's back in the title picture, man. I know you spoke about the Diamond Poirier quadrology, or should really is a quadrilogy because we did see the third fight. It did end in doctor stoppage, like you mentioned. But it's a tough fight to come back to, more tough fight to take now. Like I hope it's not Dustin Poirier straight away from that injury. I like the Chandler fight better, and then potentially explore. I mean, I think if he gets through Chandler, he's got the title shot there. And if it is Islam, if they do it in 55, and if it's Islam, man, that's got some big implications. We know the backstory there between the two camps and all that. That'll be another massive fight. Or if they do it at 170 again, like a tough division, man. Like we've seen now, there's so many killers in that division. So yeah, stylistically, I think 90% of the top 10 fighters are a tough matchup for Conor McGregor. However, this is the Mystic Mac. This is Conor McGregor, so he will do what he prefers and what he likes, and rightfully so, man. Like he's earned that right. And even for that 3-rounder thing, he can still be a main event and make it a 3-rounder. If there's anyone that the UFC will do something for, that's McGregor. He could headline it and have it at 3-rounder. So interesting times ahead, exciting times ahead. So yeah, and man, talking of that, Conor McGregor, we're talking of his combat aspect of all this. The movie seems to be doing really well. I know it's very early stages, but everyone who's seen it are saying it's pretty good and going really well. Have you managed to catch it?
Nah, but it's on my to-do list, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of obviously those kind of movies. Jake
yeah,
Gyllenhaal looks good.
man.
Done well marketing it, so hopefully it lives up to the hype.
Absolutely, man. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. His movies are like next level. Even his movie Southpaw was pretty good. But yeah, look, I think I'm gonna watch it tonight because it's out on Prime. So I'm gonna give it a shot tonight. Excited. Let's see, because McGregor's character was written in, so it's not in the original. Um, so according to what McGregor's saying, the role didn't exist, but he was originally brought in as like a henchman, who's going to be part of the movie. But then seeing how the value he added in terms of the combat aspect of it, especially, they made that role bigger, to the point where I think he's the primary antagonist. So man, like I'm excited to see it. Like I mean, we've seen glimpses on the trailer. We've seen sort of you know what he's doing in there. The action sequences seem nuts. So yeah, I'm keen. I'll let you know. I'm gonna watch it tonight. I'll let you know how the movie is.
No, appreciate it. Yeah, let me know, and I'm definitely down to see it. And
Yep.
we will update everyone on our thoughts. Obviously, it's out now on Prime, and yeah, today
Yeah.
had the interview with Ariel Hawani that we just spoke on, and yeah, great marketing. Let's continue. We're gonna talk a bit about some news that also came out regarding the Rio card and our own Perth's own flyweight Stephen. Uh, how do you pronounce his
Erceg.
surname? Erceg.
Erceg. Yeah.
Erceg. Real surprise. This took the combat sports world a bit by surprise that he was given a shot so soon. How do you explain it, DJ?
Man, look, it's first of all, whenever there's this much attention on local talent, it's great to see, and obviously got our support and the support of the Australian fans behind Erceg. Huge stage, going into enemy territory, man. You name it, right? Like this is where I don't think this is a main event, or at least it's not being marketed as the main event yet, which means the UFC is trying to maybe add another fight. Um, there's been talks about Alex Pereira making a quick turnaround, depending on how UFC 300 goes, man. But man, fighting Jamal Hill, win or lose, it's going to be a tough task because it's going to be a war. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But let's say now, I've got to be very honest. If this was the main event, they will have to stack the card up, man. Right? They need a Costa. It's a great, from a skill set point of view. It's an extremely exciting fight, right? But we've seen, especially with what the UFC has given in the past 6-7 pay-per-views, right? They've shown us what they can do. So it's a bit hard. I understand things didn't go as they planned for UFC 300, so they had to shuffle Pereira, who probably would have been the original main event, right? So they had to shuffle that around, and being UFC 300, being the emphasis on that. But now they found themselves obviously having to put together this Rio card, being so close to UFC 300, which is the very next pay per view. So yeah, like in terms of what they've given us so far and seeing this, I don't know if this carries the same value or the weight as the cards that are preceding this. And this has nothing to do with the fighters or the fight. I'm just talking about the card, and if this were to go ahead as a main event, it is
What about
interesting because if yeah.
just on that point, them throwing another surprise? Your thoughts on Josie Aldo,
Oh man,
and
like
his comeback?
I thought he has retired. I thought he has retired, and all these updates that kept getting thrown at us like a couple of days ago, I thought they were like all photoshops because there's so many pages on Instagram these days just release fake news for the lols, and I thought this was one of those. But nah, look, my man, look, Jose Aldo is a legend, right? I mean, that automatically sells that card, right? Especially the arena. You want to get people in, Jose Aldo, and look, even McGregor touched on this in his interview. Like it was too early for. Like I mean, Aldo had more to give. I felt. So him coming back, that's good. He's fighting Jonathan Martinez. It's a crazy fight, man. We've seen this plastered across social media. Like, it's going to be the war of the leg kicks. 'Cause they're both are heavy kickers. And it's going to be interesting. And then yeah, obviously we come back to this fight, which is the title fight, Pantoja versus Erceg. In terms of Erceg getting the title, I don't understand the hate behind this, right? From a from being from this area and wanting to see him do well, the only thing I have in mind is it too soon? Is it too big of a jump? Not maybe not even forget about skill set in terms of eyeballs, in terms of media commitments, in terms of all of that. Because the last we saw was he fought Masvidal, exquisite knockout, right? Got a lot of attention from that. Probably even made way to be able to get this opportunity. We can see like the UFC would have tried a few options before they had to go down this path. I would like to think. Manel Cape is already booked in. He's already fighting. We don't know what's happening with Kai Kara France at the moment because he's on his recovery. Um, he's on the mend. And then this is the problem, man. When you got a champion who's beaten all the top five, it's a bit hard. Like he's fought Royval twice, beat him twice. He's fought Moreno thrice and beat him thrice. Right? He's beaten Manel Cap as well. Like he hasn't fought Kai Kara France yet. The only thing that I guess sort of threw me off was we also don't know what's happening with Amir Albazi. But the thing that threw me off is Makayev. Like seems like he was ready to go. Seems like he's ready to go. Like I don't know if Ramadan played a part in it. But yeah, like I mean, if they were to go with that, I think Makayev was having a little bit more steam behind him in terms of, you know, being that trying to be that youngest champion, coming off of a win. Probably not the best of his performances, and he admitted to it as well. But yeah, interesting, man. Like, look, at the end of the day, I'm happy. Like, I'm actually excited to see this fight. I think Erceg's gonna bring it. I think he's in a win-win situation. He's got nothing to lose. And this is the thing, man. Like, you never know. Like, he picked up the phone. And he said yes, right? And hey, he's got as he's got a chance as much as anyone else to win this title. I believe, right? You never know. I mean, rewind 6 months. Strickland came here on short notice, and no one thought he'd walk back with the title. He did, and same thing, man. We could have another title down here. So yeah, pretty exciting. Definitely cheering for him. Erceg Pantoja is a killer, man. Like this guy is. We would constantly talk about well-rounded fighters and champions, and he's one of them. You know he hasn't. He's been on a tear. So yeah.
Yeah, he is, and I really look forward to the matchup now. I've got more excited about it since it was announced, and these things can happen where, like, Topuria was a huge underdog heading into the
Yeah,
Volkanovski fight, but somehow the UFC, the stars aligned, and he took his chance. So there's no reason why Steven can't do the
yeah,
same. And obviously, we just talked about the Mystic Mac and and Josie Aldo and that huge
yeah,
early upset early in Mac's career. So we could see something special, but I think
yeah.
Pantoja's going to be hard to beat, man.
It's going to be a handful. There's no denying, man. Like 100%. And for me, the biggest worry, and I keep saying this, is not so much as the skill set. I think he's extremely skilled, extremely talented. We've seen him fight. We've seen what he brings to the table. Erceg is extremely talented, extremely skilled. For me, it's the higher you start fighting. When I say higher, like not just the rankings, along with the rankings, you go into core main events, the media obligations, the every other obligation that comes with being a title challenger. It takes so currently he's used to just cutting weight, focusing on camp, going in and fighting, maybe one media day. That's it, right? Right now there's going to be so much media he's got to do, press conferences that he's probably, it's going to be all new. Like, I hope it doesn't get overwhelming for him, where he takes away from his performance. That's sort of what I'm worried about in terms of the jump, in terms of you know his fight so far and what this is going to be because of him. And hey, at this makes it 10 times worse. You add going into enemy territory, and we know the Brazilian fans, right? They're very passionate about their champions, about their fighters, dating all the way back to the McGregor Aldo days. Do you remember those press conferences in Brazil where Conor couldn't even speak? They were drowning him out. That's what it is, right? So to be able to withstand all that, as long as like he's able to shut all that out, I think we can expect a good fight.
Yeah, yeah, definitely be even more impressive, like you just said, enemy territory and all of that. But hey, as a fighter, you can't ask for anything more. Getting a title shot so early in your career, right? Even if the fight
Absolutely,
was on Mars, you'd still accept it if you were in Steven's
absolutely,
position. Um,
absolutely, man.
but yeah, having said that, like you said earlier, DJ, he didn't have to accept it. He could have waited for Pantoja to beat someone in Brazil, and knowing he could be next in line. But
Yeah,
to his credit, he agreed to it.
yeah,
And I do think it looks like it'll probably be co-main at the least, right? Do you think it'll be any further down the order?
yeah. But who will they put as main event though? That's the big question. Surely they're not banking on Pereira turning around that quick. Like Pereira would do it if anyone would. It's probably Alex Pereira, but you got to factor in that he's main eventing UFC 300, and it's a hell of a fight. It's someone he's going to fight someone who's hard to put away and hits really hard. And Jamal Hill comes to fight, and he's someone who's a champion who hadn't lost the belt. I can't. I'm trying to rack my brains to think. I mean, Pantoja is a champion, so the champion sits at the top of the pile, right? So he's going to be the main event. A champion has to be the main event. So if you're going to make Pantoja co-main, who do you make main event? Conor McGregor? Like, I don't know. Like,
Amanda? What about
man,
Amanda?
nah, I think she's retired. I don't think she's coming back. I don't. I look that would have been a big possibility because she's main evented a fair bit, right? But I don't think. Yeah, I don't think that's
Yeah,
happening.
Gil. I mean, it won't be a title shot, but surely they'll try to get Gilbert Burns on the card
It could.
then.
I mean, he didn't get injured or anything, right? Like, I mean, it was a grueling fight, but he didn't get injured, so you could get Costa, man. Like, Costa's ready to go. Get Costa. That's what I'm saying. Let's go Costa and Kananaya. You know, let's do that. I'd love to see that fight because Costa automatically ups the value of the card. He's entertainment. Everyone loves him, and he's a great fighter.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's potential. There's so many
Yeah,
Brazilians. They'll either find a better like a fight, or they'll just stack it where it's just pretty deep, and
yeah,
this will be the main event, and there'll be a heap of other,
yeah,
decent fights, and but
yeah.
yeah, always good when they head back to Brazil, like you said. I like it. Of course, the
Yeah.
talent's deep, but yeah,
Rio.
Mexico's growing. So many other regions are growing. Asia.
Yep.
But yeah, this is the latest news that we had to discuss. DJ, anything else that you'd like to mention?
Nah, man. I think we got some busy weeks coming up, so we'll probably be in and out, with these episodes. So, yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, as the news will always continue coming through. A few more fight nights before we get the big one, UFC 300, and of course we'll be previewing that and talking about it more in the lead ups in the next weeks. But yeah, this one is a wrap. Peace.
Peace.